I'm going to give you a very quick overview of the conference FlipCon, which was very exciting. There wasn't a single moment where we weren't talking about improving teaching and learning through these flip techniques. Now, if you're thinking that flipping is just making videos that they watch at home and then you come in and do the work in class, that's only a very small fraction of it. So highlights of what we talked about were, we talked a lot about the different types of flipping you can do. You can do in-flipping, which is where they watch the videos in class and they have you in front of them on the screen, and they also have you with them to help them, the expert. We talked about flipped mastery, where students can work at their own level and they can move ahead as far as you allow them to, which is why Canvas is so great. And they don't just learn something and regurgitate it for a test or create the assignment, they actually master it. And Flipped 101 is when you're doing what I said originally, where you are essentially sending them home to learn content, and they come in and they do the work with you, with the expert in the room. One of the big things was, how do we know that they have actually learned the content? How do we know that they have watched the videos? So I learned a lot about interactive ways that we can do that. We're already using Office Mix. I found out that ClickView, which we have a subscription to and has a lot of great videos, there's two really exciting things you can do with ClickView. You can add your own videos, so you can make videos and upload them to ClickView, and only you can see it, or only your students can see it, or our whole community, or the whole world. So there's a lot of options. So number one, you can add to ClickView, and number two, you can take any video on ClickView, including the ones you add, and make them interactive. Interactive means they have to stop at a certain point that you set in the movie, and then it asks the question. So the kid cannot just sit there and let the movie play and then answer questions at the end, or answer your questions when they come to class. They'll stop midway when you want them to, and they'll make they'll answer your quiz questions or your multiple choice questions, and you get data on all of that. So ClickView does that. Another app called PlayPosit does that, and Office Mix does that. And I know they sound like three different things, but guess what? They all integrate into Canvas, so we can use them in Canvas, and the kids would probably never know the difference, that they don't belong in Canvas. We talked about how the term flipping is not really necessary anymore. What we're talking about is good pedagogy. How do we get kids to learn our content in the most efficient way, so that we end up with more time to do the things that not only do they want to do, but that are enriching and that will actually help them to move more toward mastery of the subject area. We had some classroom visits, which were fantastic, because after all of this time talking about the theory of flipped teaching, I went to a school, Brighton Secondary School, which is a state school in Adelaide, and they have committed to this. And I walked into a number of different classrooms, and maybe one of them they were watching videos, but what they all were doing was they were all engaged in whatever activity they were doing. I saw English, I saw a design technology, I saw volleyball, and they were all engaged. I saw drama. They had flipped content that I didn't see because they had done that beforehand, and that allowed their class time to be active and engaged. In drama class, the teacher sat back and a student was directing. In design and technology, they were all working on their own things. In volleyball, they were running through the drills. And there are some more interesting apps that came out of that too, about how to analyze their playing technique. I got to hear from John Bergmann and from Ken Bauer. John Bergmann is one of the gurus of flipped learning, and Ken Bauer is someone I hadn't heard from before, but he talked quite a lot about making professional development more useful and more meaningful. Also about how to make professional development more of our own responsibility. How can we make that more meaningful for ourselves, no matter what we have to do or what we choose to do. I spent today doing a masterclass with John Bergmann, very collaborative, very much our interest groups getting together and talking and learning about whatever level you're at. So are you making a video for the first time, or are you working on your analytics and finding a way to get that interaction in there and harness the data that comes from that? I sat down with John and showed him what I was doing, which is really a very beginner level flip, and he was the one who said, look at finding more data from that. What the analytics will do will help us to help the right students. It will help us to find the students that need our help the most, or to extend the students that are well beyond what we planned for them to do. And of course the students in the middle who are trying very hard, but might be getting frustrated, might be getting stuck, and we need to spend some time with them. So today's workshop was really valuable. I learned a few new tricks, but it was more about understanding the breadth of what flipped learning is. Flipped learning is not just sending them home to watch a video and then coming back the next day and moving on from that. Flipped learning is meeting them where they are right now, which is a class full of 28 kids And each one of them has their own pace at which they want to learn. Each one of them has their own time constraints and family commitments. Each one of them has their own internet connectivity device, at least one, the laptop that we give them. And each one of them has a better and better idea of how they learn and what works for them. So it is really our responsibility now to think about the ways that we're teaching. It's not to change everything that we do. It's not to throw everything out the window and suddenly become this video production factory. It's to think, what do I do that I can enhance my program already with flipped content? Flipped content could be a video. Flipped content could be reading that they take home. If you're sending kids home to do reading and then checking what they learned the next day, that's flipping. So I think the whole term flipping is going a little bit out the window, and what we're looking at instead is two things. What are students doing in the group space, which is when they're in the classroom, and what are students doing in their individual space, which is at home or when they're sitting there with their headphones and they're thinking. So that's it. There's two ways to look at it. What are they doing in the group space, in the classroom, and how are we making the most of that? And what are they doing in the individual space, which ultimately influences what we do in the group space. The other way to look at it is, where do they do the hard stuff? Do they learn the hard stuff? Do they practice the hard stuff at home when we're not there? Or do they do the easy stuff, which is, here's a new idea I present to you in a video, and they can do that at their own pace. They can do it in slow motion on YouTube. You can slow down the speed. They can do it in fast motion if they got it the first time. They control how they get that content, and it's short. So that makes it easy. And then they don't have to think, I have to do this for tomorrow. They have to think, okay, I watched the video, I need to go in with questions tomorrow. And the hard stuff is, how do you actually apply that? And that application is what needs to happen in the group space, where you have the expert around, not only the teacher, but the other students to help them. And those are my very brief feelings on FlipCon 2016, Adelaide.